Hello, everybody.
Lou.
Okay, finally, I got it going.
Hey,
Clayton, how are you?
you know what? I'm doing pretty well. How about you guys?
Well, let's see. Let me get everybody in here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, there's Lindsay.
Everybody.
John's here. Alex, how are you?
Good.
Let's just, sorry, I just now got it going. I had a little problem logging in, so let's just give it a couple of minutes and let some others get a chance to join. And then we'll introduce Clayton.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Ralph.
Finally got on. Finally got figured out how to. I think I figured out how to make this work.
Yeah, well, I had a little trouble getting it started. Mike, we can only see nose up. So if you tilt there you go. Whoops. You're having a little, there we go. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm not sure what Clayton's time thing is, but he's nice enough to join us on his weekend. So Clayton Brandquist is the, well, you're more than the ticket manager, but he's the head ticket guy for the Iowa Cubs. And he's going to give us a quick rundown on what's happening with the Iowa Cubs. So take it away, Clayton.
Yeah.
Hey, Clayton, is that going to be the new entry on your resume, head ticket guy?
Head ticket guy, just guy that does whatever's asked of him is probably more fitting. But no, I appreciate you guys taking some time to have me as a guest. And, obviously, some of you guys may remember I spoke with you guys a couple years ago, and we talked baseball, and I gave you a little bit of insight into my background and how I got to where I am and all of that stuff. And so I'll gloss over some of that and really focus on talking Iowa Cubs baseball for 2021. Obviously, we're in a really exciting position to be working towards having our season back after what we all know happened in 2020. Welcoming fans back. There's a lot of work to be done in following guidelines and all the rules that are coming in from MLB, and there are some changes. So, I'll talk over some of those and some of the things that we're going to expect at the ballpark this summer. And then, if you guys have questions, that's kind of how I work best is question and answer. I want to hear what you guys are interested in and answer any questions you guys may have. So I guess to just kind of start, I am, like Steve said, the head ticket guy, the ticket manager, director of ticket operations. I also do have a sales part to my title as well. I'm an account executive, so I work with groups and skyboxes and advertisers and all sorts of things on top of all of my ticketing duties. But I do really oversee the operations of the ticket system and the box office and some of those. We do have a groups manager who focuses primarily on group outings. We have Brent Conkle, our VP of premium seating, who works with our skyboxes and oversees those operations. But I have my hand in a little bit of all of that. So I guess I've been in the role. This will be my fourth season, assuming that you count 2020 as a season, which for the ease of everything we will. So this will be my fourth season with the Iowa Cubs. Previously, I worked for a baseball team in Waterloo called the Waterloo Bucks. They are a summer collegiate team. I got a lot of experience there. It was just three of us in that front office. So I got to do a lot of different things. And throughout my time there, got to learn kind of just firsthand on the job experience stuff. And so it was a great learning opportunity for me to see what I was good at, what I enjoyed doing. And after 4 seasons with Waterloo, there was a position open for this current position. And Des Moines, being from Des Moines, the Iowa Cubs were always kind of a goal of mine to step forward. So, it's nice to be able to be back where I grew up and support the community and baseball in our community. And I know firsthand, as most of you guys, I'm sure do, the impact that baseball can have on your community and the positive things that it brings, both for baseball fans, for families, for people looking for things to do, and it contributes to the growth of the communities as well. So it's been a great few years here. Obviously this year things are going to look a little different, at least to start the season. But we are excited to have fans and be working towards that. Some of the things that, I'm kind of talking about, some of the changes and some of the things that are going on. So basically where we're at right now, something that's very different from when we last talked a couple of years ago, is the involvement of Major League Baseball in the minor league system. Typically there were always agreements and things in place, and I don't know all the specifics, but I can give you from a little bit of an insider view. The Major League Baseball and minor league baseball teams always had agreements in place to stay affiliated with the specific team that they reached an agreement with. So every few years, the Iowa Cubs and Chicago Cubs would renegotiate an agreement to talk about how long they want to be partnered, what that partnership looks like, all of those details. That has transitioned a little bit this year. And this is not as much COVID related as just the shift of Major League Baseball and their resources and their priorities. So we are now what's called under a license. All minor league teams are under player development licenses, which I'm not a lawyer, but the difference between an agreement and a license is that the licensee, the person allowing you to use their product or their things, just like if it was a McDonald's restaurant or something like that, those licenses are controlled by the person that gives you the license. So Major League Baseball is now more involved than ever before. They run the minor league system. Minor League Baseball as a unit used to be its own, office and all of that, and that is no more. Everything is coming from Major League Baseball now. So, that means that there are now newly aligned priorities. The reason for Major League Baseball's shift in this is so that they can control and oversee the facilities and make sure that everything is right. These players are their investments. They've invested sometimes millions of dollars into these guys, and they want to make sure that the facilities and the staff and all of that stuff are kind of in line with what they want to give to their investments. So they want to make sure the players are getting taken care of. Some of the big priorities are going to be clubhouse facilities, the field, some of those on-field player focused things. And not to say that teams weren't doing a good job of that before. There was a wide range of how teams were focused on those before. We were near the very top. We were always, Sam, our president and GM, Michael, our owner, always made sure to put an emphasis on that part because we knew it was such an important part to our agreements with the Chicago Cubs. So we were very ahead of the curve on all this. So those types of changes are going to be, they remain to be seen, but I would expect they're going to be a lot less impactful than they may be on some clubs that have not been as advanced in those areas. So Major League Baseball is now kind of overseeing all of minor league baseball operations. So they are the ones providing us with guidelines on how we will be able to safely open facilities, or their expectations of what we can and can't do. They're going to tell us, essentially have checklists, literally checklists. There's probably a 4 or 5 year checklist that we have to make certain improvements each and every year, which, is to be expected. On the other side, they're providing a lot of resources, marketing. They will be involved in trying to grow the game and grow the minor league system, because they will now also have, financial incentive to do so. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. It's still very new. It's been something that has been in conversations for a number of years now. I am not involved in any of those, so I couldn't tell you what those details are or exactly how long this has kind of been a possibility. But The headliner obviously coming in. We all know that some of the markets that previously had affiliated ball have since lost that. That was a direction that Major League Baseball wanted to go with contracting teams. Probably as it relates to, they're also going to be cutting back on the draft. So it's not going to be the full 40 rounds or whatever it was before. And they're going to it probably transitions into higher salary for minor league players, all of that stuff that kind of comes in. It's all, intertwined in one way or another. So yeah, there was, that's kind of the headline, but on the other side, the teams that remain will have a strong relationship with Major League Baseball. And, we're excited to move forward and get going. And, again, we're still there's a lot of work to be done. This is, we always thought that March was a crazy time to begin, any other year. So now on top of that, add all of that craziness on top of uncertainty of what our expectations are going to be. And some of those guidelines are still coming down. So we have about 15 different working plans, it feels like, all active at one time. And by process of elimination, these guidelines are going to kind of key us into one plan that we're going to have to use. So, but we're excited. It's going to be a great 2021 season. People are highly anticipating and excited here in the community. As the ticket person, I get to see that firsthand as I get calls and questions and people wanting to buy tickets and all that stuff. It's very clear how strong the desire is here in the community to get out and come to the ballpark. So we're excited. Still got a lot of work to do, but we'll get there. So to give you an insight into our season right now, we are starting the season on May 4th at home. That will be our first game that Major League Baseball decided to take away April. Sorry, there's just some weird stuff going on outside my window here. We decided they decided, to hold off. Every other level of minor league baseball was starting in May. AAA had originally had an April schedule, but with vaccines, and I can't tell you exactly their decision on this, but they've wanted to push that start date back to May. So we're going a little bit longer into the season this year. Typically, we would run from early April to Memorial Day there. We're going to run a couple weeks beyond that at this point. And as crazy as it sounds, there's still a possibility that they may add some games on the back end of September to kind of mitigate, I guess, the loss of April. But that schedule really will start to reflect more of with being able to use AAA to move people back and forth. So they always have to have AAA players ready so that if injuries or whatever come up, they can adjust those rosters. So I anticipate that'll be a pretty significant change in the scheduling for us. April's always kind of a wishy-washy weather-wise anyways. So, we'd love to have those April games, but at this point, the decision's out of our hands. And certainly as long as we can get to May, June, and July and have a good calendar there. And as things start to open up, we can see the meat of our summer look a little normalized. So as far as guidelines go, right now, we anticipate we are going to be working under a limited seating capacity for the month of May. Right now, the early indication, the plan that we kind of have will get us to 30 to 40% of capacity, which is not a bad number. Certainly we hope that increases as the season goes along, but we've kind of got to work under the guidelines that are presented to us. So right now we'll be at about 30 to 40%. It's just a distanced seating chart. There's no, it's not a magic number that they handed down to us. It's just a result of when we space out according to the MLB guidelines. That's the resulting number of seats we'll have or fans that we'll be able to bring in. So again, any fans is better than what we had in 2020. So we are very grateful to be at the point that we are. We know how quickly things can change. I think we're now transitioning. Last year it was all about changing in a negative direction, and hopefully we can get to start the season at some point in 2020, but obviously that didn't work out. Now that we've had a year under our belt, other sporting events are having fans. We've learned more. There's vaccines coming out. Things are kind of in an optimistic direction here. So it's great to be in this position. It's not a perfect position, but we're grateful to be where we're at. So with those guidelines, though, I will say, the guidelines are currently set out through the month of May, which intentionally leaves opportunity for June, July, and August to improve if MLB dictates that that's doable. So that's a very good piece for us. You know, we're gonna kind of take things as a step at a time, try to figure out, go through May, give us an opportunity to, you know, by June or July, whenever we're able to get things opened up a little bit more, get people back in normal seating arrangements, and so on and so forth. So that's an exciting proposition for us, is that yes, we do have some guidelines, but there's a limit to them. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. We just have to make sure that we're flexible on our end operationally to adjust as those changes come in, right? We don't want to leave ourselves in a position where we're shorting ourselves or not following the rules or whatever the case may be. So we need to make sure that we're flexible. It's going to take a little bit more work, but hopefully the reward is a more normalized stadium sometime during the season. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, everything kind of is a plan that we're putting together through trying to keep people safe, you know, not only from MLB guidelines, but also just in terms of having people at our venue. Our responsibility is to keep you guys as fans safe and having a good time. So anything we can do, you know, whether it be concessions lines, you know, being spaced or whatever the things may be, you know, we're going to try to do all of those things so that if you do choose to come to the ballpark, you know, you can count on being safe in your area and with your group. So it's been a lot of work, but you know, again, we're grateful to be in this position and excited to see what 2021 brings. So there will be baseball. We will have fans, and you know, it may look a little bit different, but we trust that when you get in your seat, you know, maybe you have your beer and your hot dog and your scorecard or whatever the case may be, things will feel as much normal as we can return some sense of normalcy to you. So, you know, we're continuing to work towards that and getting there. So that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of the update I have. You know, I guess at this point, I'd say if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to give more information specifically on the topics you guys are interested in. So,
Clayton, several of us are season ticket holders. How's it going to work? The 30 to 40%? Is it first come, first serve?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea yet?
Great question. Yes, we do. We have a very so here's the tricky part we've been into. Like, as we're putting together these guidelines, it's been really hard to keep communication progressing because you know, season ticket holders, you know, obviously our goal is to eventually get you back in your normal seat for every single game that you want to come to. To start the season under social distance, what we're probably going to have to do is do some sort of a voucher system where you'll be able to pick the games you want to come to in May. Again, we'll only take it 1 month at a time, but in May, you'll have vouchers that you can use to come to games based on the seating chart that we have available to us. So we probably won't be able to get, well, we definitely won't be able to get everyone in their guaranteed seat for the month of May, as long as social distancing guidelines are in place. But you know, we have a pretty good plan to give you guys the opportunity to come to the games that you want to. The nice thing about these vouchers, and this has never been a part of the season ticket package, if you're not able to come to X number of games or use a certain number of vouchers, we're going to redeem your account for the credit for the value of those tickets. So that's all of that information is going to hopefully be released in the next week or so. We just wanted to make sure that we were in a very good spot. We want to be confident in the information we give you, because we know that every time I send out an email and then have to change something, there's going to be miscommunication. And that's, you know, we want to make things as easy and understandable as possible throughout the communication process. So that is kind of the plan. But we just wanted to make sure that we were in the more set position before we kind of went forward with that. And, you know, there will be more information. We'll communicate all that, but probably under a social distancing guidelines, right? The alternative is call up Steve or all of our season ticket holders and say, hey, you know what? We're just going to put you in a different seat for the entire month. Where do you want to sit? Well, a couple of issues come up with that. One is prioritizing, right? Trying to make certain season ticket holders feel less than others or any of that. Trying to make those decisions is just, it's an algorithm that other teams are trying to play with. And I just don't think that it's probably the right thing to do. So what we would be doing is basically giving you guys as season ticket holders the opportunity to pick the seats and the games you want to come to, knowing that if you especially in May, there are a lot of season ticket holders that April and May are probably their least attended months. You're not going to be paying for those tickets. You're going to get that credit back, and that credit will be able to be used for, if you want to do a skybox, if you want to do a group, if you want to just come to a different game later in the season, if you want to apply it to your 2022 season tickets, it'll be a very flexible piece for you to utilize. But we think that's the best alternative to balance the customer service side for you guys in the situation we're in, and also give us a good opportunity to have as many seats in the ball, or butts in seats at the ballpark on any given game. Because under that 30-40%, if 2,000 of those are season ticket holders and we just give you tickets, and let's say you're not going to come to the May 4th game, May 5th game, you come to opening day, not the next one, that piece of inventory is a piece that we can't sell to someone that will be coming. So, in a typical year, they're your season tickets, use them however you want, come to as many games as you want, don't come to as many games as you want, whatever your choice is, it's your decision. Unfortunately, with the limited inventory, we have to be a little bit more careful with wasted seats and open inventory that should be sold to someone coming to the game. So with that being said, you will be able to choose your games. Again, if you don't use some of the vouchers, you'll get credited back for that money for the value of those tickets. So that's kind of how we're going about it. And then hopefully in June, when if MLB dictates, hey, you know what, we can open this much more, hopefully we get to a position where we can just get you guys back in your seats under a more normal situation. So.
Clayton, I've got two questions. Also, as you know, I'm also a season ticket holder, actually share season tickets, and that's an interesting situation. With the email that you sent out about essentially electronic ticketing, we have tickets to the Playhouse here in Des Moines in Ames, and the way that works is that you get essentially a code that you enter in for a particular performance, in this case a game, and you then can print on your computer the ticket with a what am I trying to say, the barcode.
Yep.
Okay, is that how this will work?
Absolutely.
Because that way, for instance, I'm the one who coordinates this for the three couples that share our tickets. That means that when one of the other couples has a particular game, I just email them essentially the ticket and they can print it out.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, Mike, obviously the transition to digital ticketing is one that's becoming more and more common and has been a very important discussion. First off, with that transition, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think that it was as easy as, logging in your email or creating a Zoom or logging into your Zoom, whatever the case may be. All of that stuff is kind of the way we're going. And really the important thing to note on that is that it allows us the flexibility to give you guys the confidence in what's going on and what inventory is valid and what games are going on when. If I had been printing, it takes me, believe it or not, when we do the printing of season tickets, particularly as it relates to your question, that takes me 3 to 4 weeks of multiple interns printing, getting things ready. And in that time, I would have started and we would have been told April was being scratched, and then I would have had to readjust all of that. So doing all of that this year especially is just going to be craziness. On top of that, with clients trying to get people that aren't in the office to come get tickets from the person that coordinates the tickets, all that's kind of coming in. But what I will say is, yes, it will work exactly like you described.
Yeah, you relieved one immediate concern that we had about electronic ticketing, and that is with some systems, you really can't share tickets.
Exactly.
Because you have to have a particular device or something in hand.
Correct.
To do that, or the email. The second question I had is, how will parking passes work?
Yes, so tickets are the only thing going digital at this point. Right now, parking will still be done the same way. We're still going to plan to have a season ticket appreciation event before the season, where you can come out, grab some food, beverages, whatever. We'll have some spread out there, and you can pick up your physical parking passes and any of the other things you qualified for. So all of that was.
Are the criteria going to be the same for parking passes?
Yes.
If you have 2 tickets, you get a parking pass and so forth. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
and so,
that's very helpful to know. Actually, it was that if you get 2 to 8 tickets, you get 2 parking passes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And you touched on a very important point. I'll talk about a little bit, Mike, about the digital ticketing, because as a season ticket holder, you've been sent that information kind of on an official sign up for your account basis here. The
Yes.
switch to digital ticketing, again, as I kind of alluded to, has been an important step, and it's been common throughout minor league baseball this year and all of sports. In fact, I believe the Iowa Wild are doing it. The Wolves aren't playing, or at least not here. And all the minor league teams are going to be starting to go this route. And again, it's really about trying to make everything as safe as possible, avoid lines at the ticket windows, avoid as much, back and forth as we possibly can. And so season tickets are a big part of that. And, like you said, digital ticketing doesn't mean mobile ticketing. If you've ever been to a major league game, at least in the last few years, they have their ballpark app. And so you have to use your phone to come in and all of that stuff. That's not quite where we're at. This is just going to be through a web-based. You can go to iowacubs.com. There's a tickets account login link under the tickets tab. Click that. It'll take you to your login screen where you can then manage all of your tickets. And like you said, Mike, if you choose to, you can certainly either forward those tickets to somebody via email. You can print off your tickets if you like to have a paper copy or maybe don't have a smartphone. If you do have a phone, you can save those tickets to your digital wallet. And on everyone's phone, there's usually just a wallet app you can click into, and your tickets will be right there to scan at the gates. But that flexibility is still all there. You can do all of that sharing of tickets. You can print them out. You can do all of it. It doesn't mean fully digital. Or fully mobile. It just means digital. Your ticket inventory just lives. You manage everything from here or your computer, which I'm on right now. So
I want to mention one other thing while you're on, while we're talking about the Iowa Cubs that I was very impressed by. I came in, I think it was February, to pay for the balance of our tickets. And I was talking to the young woman who was sitting at the front desk, and I was surprised and very pleased to hear that Sam and Michael did not, I don't know what they had to do this, but that they were able to retain every single full-time staff person.
absolutely,
nobody was laid off.
And believe it or not, Mike, I was very grateful for that as well. So, that was not commonplace.
I know.
90% of teams, I don't know the exact number, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the 80 to 90% range of teams that lost a good portion of their staff. I think, so we've obviously been very grateful, and I don't know that we'll ever have the right to complain about the number of hours we work anymore. So, which none of us did because we're in baseball. So we know the expectation and what it takes to do all of the things that we do. But, it's been we've been so grateful because even at the beginning of March, from the beginning, Michael and Sam our priority is to keep everyone on board. And of course, any organization is going to say that and keep you, upbeat while they can. But nobody also pictured this to go for a year plus. So I think, well, not nobody, but so we weren't sure the position we'd be in, but they've stood strong behind us, and that support has meant a lot. And actually, it's now they're going to see the rewards of it, right? There are organizations that are trying to now spend their time, instead of getting ready for a season, they're just hiring staff. Either it's people coming back or it's new people that they have to train. So I think we will see that that bet, so to speak, that investment in our staff will pay off. And I hope that it's a decision that they come to look back on and say, thankfully we kept everyone on board. So it's been great, Mike. Like you said, it's awesome. I don't know the financials, but I do know that we didn't have any game day revenue in 2020. So how you pull off an entire season of no game day revenue, I'm not sure. But we've been very grateful to that upper management and our ownership for lending us that opportunity.
Clayton, is the Cub Club permanently closed as a restaurant?
It is. So one of the few casualties of 2021 was the Cub Club restaurant. Now it is still a space to be used on non-game days. So if you guys had meetings and such, there's rentals and all of those things are available for the Cub Club for events. So it'll still look kind of the same. But the main change is that it's not going to be a full service restaurant on normal business hours. Restaurants run on such thin margins as it is. And then for us to be down for a few weeks there, it was the result was just that we weren't financially going to be able to open that up again. So the space is going to be used. Obviously, it's going to be reworked into a bit of a different area. It's going to be a lounge area out in left field. which will be it'll have 4 top tables of premium seating area that groups can rent ahead of time. And there will also be bar access in there. But we will also have the left field, what was previously called the veranda outside area, will be accessible to people. There will be a cover charge of like $5 or something, but it'll also get you a drink. Your first beverage out there will be included in that charge. So I don't know if cover charge is the right term. That kind of sounds bar to me, more bar, but I guess I don't have a better term for that. But you'll pay a fee, $5, whatever it is, go out there, you'll get your beverage. You can hang out there. It's just not going to be, you'll sit in and order from the wait staff and sit at the table and order a full meal. It'll be a little bit of a different reworked area that we're excited about. And obviously, as a staff, we are bummed, just as a lot of our fans are, that the restaurant had to close. But unfortunately, we weren't perfect. We weren't able to get out of this thing unscathed. And one of the negative parts of this was the Cub Club restaurant closure.
Any other questions? Clayton, thanks so much for donating your time, speaking with us.
Yeah,
we
feel free
appreciate
to
it.
let me know if you need anything else. I'm always available, Steve, as you know. So let me know, and I'd be happy to help. But yeah, I'm always glad to give insight into where we're at and the things we're excited about. And this time of year, yesterday was a perfect day. I spent all day outside. So we're getting to baseball weather, which is a good sign for us.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. We will move on to Lindsay. Lindsay has an update on our Iowa baseball history website. Lindsay, take it away.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm going to kick it over to John real quick because I know he wants to kind of, I talked with him earlier and he's going to talk about some things first to kind of set some stuff up, and then I'll take over.
Sure, go ahead.
Steve, Lindsay and I talked, and I thought since about half the people with us today might not be familiar with this baseball project we've tried to launch for 3 years, that I would give just a little bit of background and then turn it over to Lindsay and he can give us an update. And for those of you that, I don't know if any of you looked, but it did go up today and it is a work in progress, but I think it's looking real good. But it all began 3 years ago, this coming April. About a dozen of us met in West Des Moines, including Paul was there and John was there and Bill was there and Steve and Ralph. I don't want to leave anybody out. Mike was there. But anyway, all published authors of articles, books. I think we all share in common our love of baseball history. And the thing that we were sort of addressing is that there's never been a definitive reference work or an almanac or whatever we want to call it, focusing solely on Iowa's major league players. And a few other states have done it. And I think I shared with the group a couple of books from Indiana has done it, but they're short bios and they're not very useful, except for people from that state to get some minimal information about a player. It's not like a bio that you submit for SABR. A lot of you have done that. And those are a lot more thorough and a lot more complete and so on. So we met and tossed around ideas for about 6 or 7 hours at the library in West Des Moines. And there were a lot of great ideas that were put forward in terms of what we might include. And of course, one of the challenges was, do we try and produce a book or do we develop a website? Do we do both? We hadn't had a chance to explore costs involved. And, I had done that after that. And the other problem was that a lot of people that participated in the first meeting had ongoing projects. They were either finishing bios for SABR, they were writing their own books, and a few people dropped off for personal reasons. They just couldn't commit the time to whatever we were going to do. And so it sort of languished for a while, but I wanted to keep it alive, and I kept in touch with most of you that were involved initially and tried to revive this thing. About a year ago, I sent out, with SABR's backing, a fundraising letter after I'd found out the cost of developing a website would be $2,500 to $3,000. And a book posed problems too, in terms of consistency, in terms of credits, in terms of, if we sold the book and so on, how we distribute that. There might have been some contracts involved. So both pose challenges, but if we thought for the short term that a website might be easier to do And with the help of a number of you that are here today, plus a lot of other people, we were able to raise between $2,500 and $3,000 to get this thing going, the development of a website. And Lindsay, who just got his PhD from Iowa State in history a year ago, I think, Bob, Lindsay? Yeah, just about a year ago. And again, Iowa State let him write a dissertation on Kennesaw Landis Mountain. I don't know. I was in that history department. I don't think they would have let me write one on baseball history. But anyway, he's a one-year assignment at Bemidji State in Minnesota. And he almost immediately, he had about a 2-month break last summer and agreed to start developing this. And he has been working on it while he's been teaching a full load at Bemidji last fall and then again this spring. And he did launch the website this morning, but it is a work in progress. The focus is still, the core of the project is focusing on those 223 now major leaguers that were born in Iowa, and then trying to add a lot of other articles of interest that relate to Iowa Major League Baseball. And I will let Lindsay discuss what he's doing and where he's headed with this. And 4 of you have submitted your own personal bios and pictures to Lindsay. We want to give credit in this project to people that become part of it. Myself, John Shurey has submitted one, David Porter from Oskaloosa, and Steve Dunn. And again, a picture and then a bio of your own background and your interest now with baseball history. So Lindsay, if you want to take it from there.
Thanks, John. So yeah, as he mentioned, the site, I don't know who it finally got passed up to in the number of people I was talking through with through customer service yesterday, but it finally reached someone's desk and they were able to get the web developer itself, the platform that I'm using to build the website connected to the domain name itself, which was the issue I had yesterday. But anyway, it is up, and as John said, I know it's a bit sparse right now, but all of you who've contributed content, it isn't, I do have it on my computer. All of it's there. It's just a matter of now getting all of that back into the pages itself, as you kind of see the importance of getting it up. And what is there right now was to allow you to kind of get a feel for the layout, see how it looks, see how interactive you and compatible you believe it is, and to give you a feel for what it will look like as we continue to add more and more content. And the whole idea, obviously, is to make this what people want, because as John noted, I mean, I know a lot of you have invested in this, and I know everybody who invests in something wants to see the return that they believe they're investing in. And that's what I want to be able to do for everybody through the website. And, you know, comparative to what John was quoted about building a website, you know, we're very much working, you know, at a much cheaper rate here. And, you know, there still is, we're good for a year for this website. And there's still money to, you know, extend it for an additional year if the group chooses to do so. And so the whole process then is to make sure that this website will serve what everyone wants this to do, to be able to do, as John noted, with mainly like Iowans in the major leagues and all of those write-ups, as short as they might be, because as John noted, I know that SABR is very much going in a direction that is a little more kind of in the peer review model, the sort of scholarly publications. And I know that not everybody has, you know, formal citations in all of the write-ups here. And I think that, you know, we as a group could decide if that's a path we want to eventually go. I'm not including any yet, even if some of you have provided those. But these are things that we can talk and as the project sort of continues in its ongoing here. But the main thing was to make sure there's uniformity right now and everything on the website, and to ensure that what you have put together is being reflected in the larger project itself. And so I guess just quickly, because John mentioned something, I am up in Bemidji right now. I'm at Bemidji State University, and I just signed on for another year up here. So I will be up here for one more year. So that was nice to hear. But yeah, it's I do apologize. It hasn't been as, I know, quick and immediate as a lot of you probably have wanted. And I can tell you that I am continuing to try to get as much done as I can. But obviously, with the full load in my first year of teaching, it's been a bit trying to build a course, trying to build 4 courses each semester and keep up on everything. It's pretty time consuming, but I definitely want to continue to give to the project that I know a lot of you have invested in. And so I just want to make sure that, everybody likes what they see and that it's something that they feel is worth that investment if you have already contributed something monetarily to the project itself. I guess that was, go ahead.
Lindsay, I do have some experience, although it's kind of ancient in internet terms in building websites, and I'm impressed with what I've seen. It's not, I think one thing that I really like is that it has a very clean feel, and it looks pretty easy to navigate. And I much prefer that to a lot of technological bells and whistles. So I realize there's a lot to go, lot that's not there yet. But what I've looked at of what you've given us, I think I think you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I
would agree with that.
On that point, that's something I tried to do. Part of what took a little bit of time was finding that template to build that would be exactly that. I didn't want it to be overly flashy or confusing, because I feel like what we're trying to provide as content, I wanted it to kind of have that slightly vintage feel for the history part of it. I wanted it to be very, very clean. But there's quite a bit we can still do with the website. One thing that it allows, I can upload like videos as well. So if there's at some point, I know at least there's supposed to be a game in Dyersville at some point, a major league game. I think John could probably talk more about that. But if something came up where, you were able to sit down and talk with somebody within Major League Baseball, and you wanted to upload like an interview or something, we have the capability and bandwidth to be able to do that as well. So there is quite a bit we can do with the website beyond just publishing stories. But again, that's I think with what the group kind of feels like they want to take, wherever the direction the group wants to take it, we can. It's just very minimalistic right now, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But Lindsay,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go
ahead.
Lindsay, do you have the sole editing powers right now for the website?
Yep, and I can give that to anybody as well. Anybody can get access to the credentials to sign on and also make changes if you care to do so. But right now, yeah, I have sole control to be able to, and I can do it instantaneously, because I just on the drive over to my office where I'm at now from my apartment, I was talking with John, and in that time I was able to go up and just change some of the language on some of the tabs on the page. So it can happen, instantaneously.
Well, yeah, what I'm asking is, I looked at the website and I just kind of perused one of the bios that I submitted, and I noticed a word use wrong that's in there. So should I just send you an email to let you know, or?
Yes. Yeah. If you see, and I try to go, I obviously can sometimes miss things. I've gone in and put stuff. I've tried to go back through and make sure that everything looks or reads all right. But if you happen to notice something in a bio you've written or someone else, or anything that's been written that needs to be changed, send it to me in an email. Just give me the bio, whoever it is, and let me know where it's at, and I can get that changed immediately.
Okay.
I have a suggestion regarding administration of the website. I think from past, it's been a long time since I actually designed one, but it's only been even currently, I'm still managing a site that was designed by somebody else. And I would make kind of 2 suggestions. One is that I think it's a good idea to have at least one person who can back you up. If for some reason something comes up that really needs to be attended to and you're not available or whatever, that's good. But it's also a good idea not to proliferate a lot of people having access, because that just invites chaos. And actually, I really think that even one or two other people, the understanding ought to be that that they don't do stuff, they don't freelance, that they take care of something that really needs attention right now, or if can respond if somebody has hacked into it and defaced it in some way, but that basically that they're not there to essentially rework the site to the way they want things or anything of that sort. So I just suggest one or two other people, but I also think that it needs to be somebody who, I don't know if we have anybody else who's really conversant with website design or anything of that sort. That doesn't have to be attended to today or anything like that. I just think that that's something that we ought to be thinking about.
I'm well versed in website design. My company builds websites for colleges.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Right.
I had one other question looking at the site. Yeah, I noticed there's the contact and an email.
Mhm.
Who's monitoring that? Is that something you're doing or somebody else?
I created that Gmail account specifically for the websites. And in one of the initial emails, I gave the credentials for that email account as well. And so, anybody can, sign in with, IA baseball history at gmail.com, and then bobfeller19, all lowercase, is the password. And so anyway, you can get on, and so that's why I want to make sure that clearly if something came along and, and I'm completely off and removed from the project, I want to have things set up so anybody, because the website itself and the domain name are linked to that email account. It's not my personal one. So that's why I wanted to make sure that it could be transferred on to just anybody else, as kind of Mike, you were mentioning, if this gets passed along at some point down the road, that email address will still be the one primarily linked to the domain name and the website, to make sure that anybody can still get in, access, and make the changes needed.
I'd also make the suggestion that when the website is really public, that it would be a good idea. I don't know whether it should be you, Lindsay, or Steve, or one of the other officers, but somebody should be getting prompted on their own email that there's a message there, and you can do that with Gmail. You can, and I think that would be a good idea, because you could go, if we don't get, if there's just aren't messages coming in, you say you check it a few times, there's nothing coming in, it's easy to kind of forget about it. And then if somebody does respond or does ask a question, it just, it's good to know that somebody needs to know that happened.
Right.
And I'd suggest for the moment that would be appropriate that it come to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely.
By the way, you do have another, it's not anywhere near the amount that you've received so far, but there is about $200 coming to you still.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks. And I told John that, for what was already given to me, I feel has been a fair compensation for everything that's gone into it so far. And as I mentioned, there's still enough from that initial contribution to renew for another year if we want to. So just everybody be aware of that's still a possibility if everybody wants to, when we get closer to the end of this year, look to renew. But I was just this is kind of a bit going back to our initial presenter, but I was just thinking as he was talking about that relationship between Major League Baseball and the minor leagues, I'm kind of thinking, I guess Landis won in the end in his war against Branch Rickey in the minor leagues, right? That's Major League's, got all of its control now that it wanted, and so. But anyway,
it's been a long time since we had a commissioner who penalized major league teams for what they were doing with their minor league affiliates.
Yeah,
I that will always be a sore point with me, since I'm a Tigers fan, And since he took a bunch of players away from the Tigers for doing things that in the intervening years were just trivial.
Yeah.
Roy Cullenbine was given to, I think, the Indians for 5 years. And then he came back to the Tigers just in time to retire. And that was before I was born, but I still haven't forgiven him for it.
That's the beauty of baseball, though, right?
What?
That's the beauty of baseball. You know?
Of course. You mean the ability to hold grudges indefinitely?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's only the secondary criticism I have of Landis. I don't really. I think the more important question is his treatment, his denying there was a color line when it was clear that he was enforcing one.
Yeah, that's
So he was not only a bigot but also a liar. And
Yeah.
and you can ask me. I know I'm very, very subtle about my feelings here.
Yeah, I've read just about everything he's ever written and went through his entire collection at the Chicago History Museum, and I've got quite a bit I think about to say about him in regards to that, but that's a whole. We're getting way off topic.
I know.
But
do you have any particular thing that you would want to solicit from any of us that you sort of feel like you haven't gotten?
Right now, no. I mean, I still want to just make sure I get everything that I've been given so far. Keep getting that up, and as I mentioned in the email I sent earlier, I'm hoping that every week when you go there, you're going to see more and more to the point that I'll have everything that I've received up on the website, and then we can and then I can send another email out at that point and say, hey, go take a look at the site, see what's there. That this is the extent, and then maybe solicit people at that point to say if you see something that you feel is still missing, to do so. And then I could also at that point maybe offer up a direction of maybe this is like a player that here's a list of players that still need to have a write-up or something like that.
What company hosts the website?
It's a company called Wix, W-I-X.
Okay.
Lindsay, if I could add a comment.
Yeah.
A number of you that are with us today have either been involved at some point with this project and maybe not been able to continue, but I would invite all of you to submit articles to Lindsay. And again, we're trying to keep the focus on the major leaguers born in Iowa. But I think a lot of you, like I said in my earlier comments, have expertise. And John Pregler from Dubuque has joined us. You can see the beautiful Mississippi River in the background down there. And John just wrote a terrific article. He's the knowledgeable person about baseball history in Dubuque. And I know, a lot of you have written articles too that relate to Iowans in the major leagues. So I would invite you to get involved with the project if you haven't been. And if you were at one time, to rethink maybe, rejoining the project. We want to keep it dynamic. We want to keep adding to it. It's going to be a work in progress all along, I think. And we did explore the book, but I think there were some legal issues and some issues regarding signing contracts and if there was, any money to be made about how that would be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the time being, we're going to, stick with developing this website. Lindsay's agreed to stay with it. But we want more and more people to become part of this thing. And Ralph and some of you that have not submitted a bio of yourself in the proper attire representing your team for the project, like I said before, Lindsay's putting, our mugs up there and a short bio about each of us. And I think that can build its own momentum too.
Could I put in an advanced protest about having to look at Steve in Giants gear?
I want to know how to get this looking right, or is it just me? Does the SF look right to the rest of you? It's backwards on my screen.
Oh yes, yeah. It's yes, it does.
Looks right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it a mirror image?
No, it looks right.
Yeah, it looks right to us.
Well, that's weird because on mine it's a mirror.
Yeah,
image.
it's right.
Yeah, so is mine backwards.
Dixie, did you say it was backwards?
Oh,
Weird.
On my screen, it looks fine. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be.
That's
No,
weird.
I always thought that too, because I'm looking at my shirt and it's backwards to me, but it's not backwards to anyone
Okay.
else.
Okay, weird.
Yeah, you're
So
fine,
only-
Steve.
Only on our own is it backwards.
Yes.
That's bizarre.
Hmm.
That is bizarre. Huh. Okay, thanks, guys.
Technology.
Huh. Well, thank you very much, Lindsay and John. As a backup, we'll go to step 3. Are you still with us, Paul? He is.
I am. You may need to make me a co-host so I can share the screen.
Have you tried it? I'm not sure how to do that. Whoops.
Yeah. Well, it says you started screen sharing, but it doesn't show anything. Oh, there we go.
I see it.
See if I can get this to work here. So, couple things. It's kind of weird here that a couple of your presenters on Iowa baseball are actually at least in Minnesota or from Minnesota on this project. So I started out doing a lot of my baseball research. There's a book that came out called Swing for the Fences, Black Baseball in Minnesota. And so I started out trying to identify members of the Hall of Fame that had played in Austin, Minnesota, so up here in Minnesota. And this was well before the recognition of Major League, Negro Leagues as Major League. So during the course of that, I stumbled on this black baseball team out of Mason City called the Mason City Black Bats. And let's just say it's been a massive rabbit hole for about 13, 15 years. So one of my projects, this is actually a Southern Mini jersey. We had a semi-pro league up here, and that's from the Austin Packers. The Southern Mini actually branched into Iowa, had some teams in Bancroft, Mason City, and Estherville at some point. And so one of my pre-COVID projects was trying to look at integration and how that league integrated after, or didn't integrate, probably is the best way to put it, after Jackie Robinson's joined her into the Montreal Royals. And so one of the things that happened was I was presenting to the Halsey Hall chapter at it, and someone asked at the end of the meeting, well, why is it that Minnesota has town ball and nowhere else does? And John, you've done a lot of that research on some of the early town ball in Iowa. You probably are scratching your head going, what are they talking about? And it's very much true. But the question, I think, is why is Minnesota credited with having town ball while other places do not? And I think one of the reasons is we have an end-of-year state tournament. We have the Minnesota Baseball Association that defines what's a proper league, who's an eligible member. And because of that, we've got statistics and we've got tournament champions and memberships and things like that hasn't necessarily been there for Iowa, even though we know Iowa has had town ball. And really about that same time, someone from the Halsey Hall chapter sent out a blast, and I don't know if it got to the Iowa group, saying, hey, I've got this picture from this team in Iowa from 1928. Can anybody tell me anything about this team? And so doing a little bit of newspaper research, and again, it's hard to get into archives and things, we're able to find some information about, again, the fact that we have a Corn Belt League playing in some pretty small towns in Iowa, but the fact is, if they're playing in small towns, they're very likely playing in larger towns as well. In 1928, it's kind of interesting because at one point they're called the Ravens and Rovers and called all sorts of things. But if we just ignore this as part of the baseball history, we miss out on some interesting things. And I'll give you this summary from a Labor Day game that was played in Dysart. Dysart would have lost the game to O-line. Their team was the MWA. I'm still not sure exactly what that means. But when the Dysart shortstop hit a long fly to the south road with 2 out, the left fielder, Joe Butler, goes after it and has the ball in his mitt. But a boy happens along on horseback, and just in time for Joe to run slam into his horse and cause Joe to drop the ball, letting it score. So there are a lot of colorful things, certainly in our history, that we could look at in terms of baseball. And John's done a lot of that with early baseball. But in thinking about that question, really, why hasn't the Iowa history been as well documented as it probably could be or should be? And so we've just had that presentation on this other project that's talked about the major leaguers in baseball. One of the things I decided to do is I'm going to try and build some of the framework for at least people to build off for the future, because I think that's what we do with history, is we try and build something that someone else can make better or use. So I do pretty regularly post my updates to the blog. And here's my blog site, Iowa Town Ball, on WordPress. It's free to use, free for me. So cost-wise, there's not much there other than my research and time. But really trying to build out what was the spread of baseball in Iowa. Relatively quick, relatively cheap. I can upload photos, do a Word document, and there it is. So one of the things that I started with was Lee Kaiser's Des Moines Semi-Pro Tournament, 1931 to 1935. For those of you that have been to the site, see the links on the Facebook page. I'm not really going to go through those tournaments and repeat it. You can go to the site and see those. The first 5 years, 1931 to 1935, are on the blog. Also branched a little bit into the National Baseball Congress qualifying tournament, 37 and 38, actually 36, 37, and 38, in part because, interestingly, in 1937 and 1938, Iowa's champions were all black baseball teams, so it had to be put up there for February in my mind. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to give you this to give you a little bit about the spread of the tournament. So we see Des Moines pretty active. Charles City was the champion in the second year. Redland, which played in the Cedar Valley League, was the champion in the third year. They had a bit of a ringer pitcher. But you see smaller towns, Colfax, Osceola, Ottumwa, Elkader, Slater, up there on the list, showing that we've got decent spread, and some of these towns are putting out pretty good baseball. Over here, this top prospect side of it, one of the interesting aspects of the tournament, for those of you that haven't looked at the site, whoever was named the top prospect, won a tryout with the Western League Des Moines team. So it was actually recruiting for Kaiser's team. The prospect got a chance, and in later years, actually, there was an agreement that the top prospect would get a tryout with the Browns. Whether that was good, bad, or otherwise, depending on your opinion of the Browns, that's a whole nother matter. But this 1935 team was the Des Moines Farmers Union team, which, of course, those of you that know Bob Feller's history kind of know a little bit about the background of that team. On the left side, oops. Got a little PowerPoint. Is actually at the start of the season, the feature pitcher, who was Harold Hal Manders. He fits into John's talk about people that made the major leagues. It's actually Bob's cousin, who was 18 in 1935. Bob was 16. Both pictures coming from the Des Moines papers from that Des Moines tournament. So if you know Bob's history, you know he was pitching for Farmers Union that summer. He was actually signed by Cleveland during the 1935 season. Hal would later on go on with the Detroit Tigers. But really what drew me, or really probably got my interest in this project, is this article in the middle here. And since it's Women's History Month, we'll talk a little bit about this. The team was sponsored by Farmers Union, and the Farmers Union convention was up in Charles City. So on the 4th of July, Farmers Union team traveled to Charles City and played a doubleheader with the Texas Black Spiders, that lovely rabbit hole team of mine. And we see that the two pitchers were Fellers and Manders, one game apiece on that. But the batteries for the Spiders, Hanson, Foster, again, Tilliford, it should actually be Haverly, and Hargis. The Tilliford actually is a female pitcher that was pitching up in Iowa in 1935, believed to be a black pitcher, black female pitcher. So another source of the rabbit hole in my connection to the Des Moines Farmers Union team. And actually, the Texas Black Spiders won both games, defeated the Farmers Union, went into the series undefeated. So was able to present on Tilly Ford at the women's International Women's Baseball Conference, and there's actually been an article in 9 coming out in the all women's issue. The other connection with the Farmers Union is in 1935, another tournament starts up in Iowa, and that is the American Amateur Baseball Congress starts in 1935 nationwide. So that starts up outside of the Des Moines Semi-Pro tournament. We have another tournament. Those games are actually held out at the state fairgrounds, not at the Western League Park. Farmers Union is again featuring Bob Feller. The second game of the tournament, it's an 8-team single elimination tournament. Feller beats Harold Tackleson. If we go back to the list, he was actually the top prospect in 1934 at the Des Moines tournament. Pitches Tackleson in 1935, struck out 18 in the first game on Saturday, comes back on Sunday, was apparently a little bit wild, but struck out 13. So 31 strikeouts in 2 days as they defeat Cascade for the right to go to Dayton. Interesting, they go to Dayton, Ohio. There's 2 teams that are scouting the game, one from Cleveland and one from Boston. I'm not sure. Boston made a big deal about, it was made a big deal in the Battle Creek papers about Boston spending time with Bob, but I think Cleveland was probably just sitting there licking their chops because he'd already signed with them. So if we return a little bit to Lee Kaiser's semi-pro tournament, because in the interest of time, we're certainly not going to cover every game of every tournament in baseball. A couple things are interesting, especially comparing Minnesota and Iowa. On the left, you see that there's a team called the Negro Elks. The Elks clubs at one point were entirely segregated, separate organizations. And in typo, that should be 1938, the Negro Elks team actually entered the Iowa State tournament. Minnesota, because it was run by the Baseball Association, had the ability to really control player eligibility. So even though we talk about Minnesota being superior and having town ball, it wasn't until 1947 that baseball in Minnesota reintegrated, and then only with 2 players on separate teams. So we had 1 team there. The Black Elks had 3-hit pitching in the first game, defeated the Madrid team, had been entered many, many times in the tournament, usually had done once 7-1. Then they had a very unfortunate headline about being whipped in the second game of it. By 1938, the Farmers Union team had moved off, at least out of formal Des Moines. St. Mary's not very far away. Here you see some of the pictures later on. Talking about presentations, imagine what you could do now, walking around having a baseball hat that's FU in modern parlance with kids walking around. And they couldn't wear those at school too long, huh? But a lot of brother teams, a lot of family connections that we always see with town ball, brothers playing brothers, fathers playing with sons and things. And in this case, during this particular season, we actually had 2 sets of 3 brothers playing with the Des Moines team. So a lot of interesting connections. Speaking of family connections, moving a little bit more outstate, again, returning to the Amateur Baseball Congress. In 1939, the Menke family, famous baseball family from Iowa, Bancroft Lions, heavy with Menke connections, traveled to Des Moines and beat the Des Moines Valley, Des Moines Veterans home team for the right to enter the American Baseball Congress. The Des Moines Veterans home team is interesting because it appears they played most of their home games at the Veterans home to entertain the veterans. But those 39, 40 teams were pretty solid teams, typically did quite well, claiming the semi-pro state tournament. The 1940 tournament was divided into subsections, a north and south section. The south section was played at Burlington, and Bancroft hosted the north section. The Veterans home won its 2 games for the right to meet Bancroft at Bancroft. Bancroft reached the finals by battering an Arlie lefty Kraupe. Anyone who's familiar with Minnesota baseball at all, you know that Arlie Kraupe becomes a very highly regarded, highly sought after pitcher, especially at tournament time. in baseball. If you were to go to my other blog, which is Southern Mini Baseball at WordPress, you could read about one of those antics in trying to get Arlie available for a postseason tournament. But Arlie was pitching for Norris Springs. That's where he went to high school. Bancroft hit him for 16 hits. And then Bancroft sets back Veterans Home 4-2 and 7-0 to advance to the Baseball Congress. And here you can see the program from the Baseball Congress. I haven't had time to go through and track out all of that tournament yet, but you can see here on the roster the number of Minkies and Don Blanchard, who would actually go on, play quite a few years in the Southern Mini League, come back to the Iowa State League. I think he was a manager of the Mason City Legionnaires at some point. So we have a lot of baseball going on in a lot of places. You can see some smaller town teams, Stanton, Bancroft, obviously being involved in those things as well. In 1941, we started to see a little bit more organization. The National Baseball Congress was pushing teams to organize with the National Baseball Congress so their contracts to be recognized, and started to form leagues with the tournaments. So I found so far 4 of those leagues that were organized, one in the Midwest, kind of the mid-central portion of the state, the Goldfield, Iowa, if you even can find that, actually won that league, defeating many of the teams from Des Moines there. Leaping forward a little bit, kind of again, interest of time, 1945. This is a list on the right side of National Baseball Congress qualifying. I haven't had a chance to post all of the tournaments yet, but we're working on it. But the 1945 tournament, I think, is interesting and ties in a little bit to John's project in that we have a matchup between Adele and Perry, and the 2 starting pitchers are, again, Hal Manders and Al Epperly. So Epperly had been with the Cubs in 38, came back into the major leagues in 1950 with Brooklyn. Manders had been pitching with Detroit. The story is, and someone can certainly correct me if they know more about it, was that he was 4F but didn't want to play in the majors and came back and farmed. But he pitched many years between Waukee, Adele, and I think there was one other team in there. And so we have this matchup of former major league pitchers. Epperly pitches well, but Manders obviously pitches much better, throwing a no-hitter in the National Baseball Congress qualifying. So just listing out the winners from Iowa through 1948. My plan is to continue with the blog through the amateur side and then go back and start picking up National Baseball Congress qualifying again. Just again, kind of showing some of the depth of what we have for potential history to be covered here. There's a lot to be covered. In 1949, there was again a semi-pro baseball league, probably among many, but focusing on this one, that lasted from 1949 to 1955. Pretty high caliber players in this league. A couple names you might recognize. Charlie Pride pitched 1 game for the Wall Lake Popcorn Kernels. There was a Willie Wells. I'm not sure if it was junior or senior on that same team. Bob Gibson was a pitcher and center fielder for Esterville. Johnny Blanchard spent the summer as doing maintenance and hitting home runs in Carroll. Sammy Esposito, many other players. This was kind of either people who had made the majors or were close, or it was really college players on their way up. So it's kind of a very weird mix of things. Wall Lake had a very close chance. They thought they had Moose Skowron signed in 1950. Instead, he came up here and played for the Austin Packers, and eventually, obviously, signed with the Yankees. So my point really is that we have a lot of potential history that we really haven't done, I don't think, as good a job of getting out there and covering for whatever reason. And whether it's this site or we use this other site, we have some opportunities and maybe some obligation to put some of this history out there. Again, I think the fact that Iowa didn't have that state organization hampers a little bit of the history, but it also creates opportunity. because we have a lot of variability in who's playing these tournaments against who they are. We have Cinderellas. We have Redland winning the whole thing in 1933, beating out some of the big city Des Moines teams. Because it's not one state tournament, there's a lot of regional things that we have to cover. Council Bluffs had a Southwest Iowa tournament. Obviously, there's more to the Amateur Baseball Congress that needs covering. I know there were tournaments in Davenport, probably Dubuque. I found some tournaments in Sioux City, really documenting that, again, the spread of baseball in Iowa. So between these two presentations, I think it shows that we have a lot of opportunities to step up our game, show history, whether it's focusing on Major League, whether we're focusing on town ball, whatever it is that we do. This is really kind of the start of it. Unfortunately, I'm also studying history, but I'm at the beginning, so I'm working full time and going to school as well. So it does limit things a little bit, but I'm going to try and keep it at least getting one tournament a month. And once we get past the summer session of school, we might get it bumped up a little bit. So hopefully you've at least enjoyed a small sampling of some town ball or semi-pro ball. I kind of mix them together because I don't know that it matters greatly for the presentation in Iowa, and hopefully we'll have more for you in the future.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, I would add one comment. I had an opportunity probably 15 years ago to sit down in Hal Mander's home and interview him. And he donated, when he died, I think over 10 years ago now, but he donated a lot of baseball memorabilia and artifacts to the library in Waukee.
Yep.
And they have a room that has a lot of that information. But he had a very short career, but he played a lot of, like you said, town ball in between, the short time with the Tigers and so on. But it was fun talking to him because he's always overshadowed by his cousin. Everybody knows Bob Feller. No one knows Hal Manders.
Yeah.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the interesting things I found is I found a letter someone wrote to Hal in the 80s, and it asked whether he'd ever played against black baseball teams. And he replied, I assume it's his handwriting. I didn't pay much for it, but so he replied with two instances, and one was he played against the Black Spiders in 1935 and against Jackie Robinson with Montreal in 1946. So. I will also say this, that if anyone has, articles that they want to put up, it's my blog, partly because I just control it, but my goal here is to really also get out the story of baseball. So if somebody has an article that may not be tied into major leagues necessarily, or just, a Dubuque story, I'm certainly open to doing guest blog commentators too. So you can forward those to me as well.
I take it that the Menkeys are mentioned are relatives. I'm not quite sure if they're in the same generation as Dennis Menke, who was in the major leagues for, I think, 13 years.
Yeah.
From 62 to 74.
I always lose track. I can never remember whether Dennis is John or Walter's son, but I think it's Walter's. Okay. And so Walter was the one Walter and John were probably the most well-traveled of the two, but I think there was at least one more brother, and
there's a Richard, I think.
And then, so I don't know all of the family connections, but I know John and Walter also played in Minnesota. At one point, they were both MVPs of the state tournament up here as well, which kind of shows Walter's career, because he was, I think, MVP in 34, 35 in Iowa, and I think in 46 in Minnesota. So pretty dominant player.
I did a program up in Titonka, up in Kasuth County, about 6 or 7 years ago. And one of the cousins of the Menkeys came to my program. And he told me that in one of the games they played, they had 8 starters with the last name Menke. So the Menke family, you know, and Bancroft are just synonymous. I mean, that was for a town that size. They produced, and interestingly, not just the Menkes, but Joe Hatton, who played in that first game with Jackie Robinson, is also from, you know, Bancroft. So pretty good claim to fame for Bancroft, Iowa.
Yep. And
You know,
Iowa
I'm not,
Visual.
if I've got the right Walter Menke, I looked him up and it looks like he had 10 siblings.
Wow.
Could be, yeah.
Which wouldn't have been uncommon. I'm assuming if they're in Bancroft, they were probably most likely a farm family, and that would not have been uncommon in those days at all.
He came from a farm family, because when he played 1 year, I believe, in Des Moines, and then I think the story is that he returned back to the family farm. But that may have been 37, so that may have been the last year of the team too.
Anything else for Paul? Any questions, comments? Thanks, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Good work.
Thank you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
John, do you have any update on the Field of Dreams game?
Well, you know, I said before that someone that's a relatively new member of SABR and has had a terrific article published by SABR, John Pregler, is from Dubuque, and he was involved in the meeting just over a year ago, kind of an ad hoc meeting that I had with John and with Roman, who's he's the director of operations for Go the Distance. And they're the ones that are putting this together. I've talked to him and I asked if at some point he might be willing to come and share, you know, information with our SABR chapter, our Field of Dreams chapter. I told you last week that he's already offered for us to have a booth there. Whatever happens on the 12th, we'll have to see. But John, do you have anything you'd like to add more recent? I don't know how recently you visited with Roman or the others involved.
Well, first off, this is my first chapter meeting and I've enjoyed it, so thank you. I have a call into Roman actually this weekend, so I'll be talking to him this coming week to talk about a couple different things that are starting to be discussed in the area as it looks like Travel Dubuque and other groups around the area associated with the event are starting to look at, do we need to start planning other events because Dubuque County will be more open and will be able to entertain those types of things. And one of the things I want to talk to Roman about is a potential symposium and some presentations on Dubuque County baseball history, especially as it relates to our hometown pride, and that would be Ted Sullivan, Tom Loftus, and Charlie Comiskey, who have history here, and their relationship to baseball, and the fact that Shoeless Joe Jackson played a game here in 1916 in Dubuque County, 70 years prior to his showing up on the Field of Dreams on the other end of the county. So hopefully I'll have some more information and kind of see what the art of the possible is. John, as you and I discussed, one of the things I would like to do is have some type of SABR symposium and discussion. And I do know that there are places that would be willing to host an event like that. But the question is, you know, COVID, how do you go about planning that? Who do you invite? Those types of things. But hopefully I'll have some more information here within the week.
John, you weren't with us at the last meeting, but Roman and I discussed the same thing. And he said that they would have a space for us, even with social distancing, where we could do some kind of symposium. And then as a special guest, he suggested Wade Boggs would be available. He's one of the big backers financially of the Field of Dreams and of the game and so on. And other major leaguers. He mentioned about a half dozen of them that might be guests of ours for whatever happens on August 12th or 13th or whenever it happens.
Yeah, Wade's well known around the Dubuque area. He likes to stay at the Julian Dubuque and sing karaoke.
Is he any good?
So. He's a better ball player.
So I think we'll just keep you updated as John and I get more information about what's going on in Dubuque and with the Field of Dreams. And I said before, one thing I would suggest to any of you that weren't with us at the last meeting is make reservations early if it looks like it's going to, happen on August 12th, because space will be hard to find, motel rooms, hotel rooms. So
The place that you mentioned, John, is outrageously expensive.
they jacked it up just for the Field of Dreams game.
Yeah.
But if they don't fill it, they're going to drop the price, I was told. And they're doing it on purpose. Obviously, they've had a bad year, like everybody else.
Sure, okay.
And you're going to see that at, I'm sorry, you're going to see that at a lot of the hotels in the area for that week, especially since they all booked up and sold out literally within a day or two after the first announcement, a year ago. So they're weeding out the tire kickers and of course, jacking up the price because they can.
Anybody have anything else about baseball?
Steve,
Iowa, or
I would just add, I might have mentioned this the last meeting, but a terrific new book
yes,
that just came out. And it's John Thorne wrote the foreword for the book. And John Thorne is a good friend of the author. It's Thomas W. Gilbert. The book's title, I think most of you can read it. It's How Baseball Happened. And it says outrageous lies exposed, the true story revealed. But he's a wonderful researcher using almost exclusively primary source information from newspapers. And he dispels all the myths about, there are 13 people that were at one time given the title of the inventor of baseball. And he shoots them all down. But it's the book hasn't been out that long, but well worth reading if you want to get into the early history of how this game came about. Because before this book, John Thorne himself and David Block probably had the two best books, Baseball in the Garden of Eden by Thorne. And then I forget David Block's title right now, but anyway, it's a book I highly recommend if you want to read about the beginnings of the game.
how does it fit in with Thorne's Garden of Eden?
Well, what Thorne just says I'll read off the back cover, I'll keep it short. He says, How Baseball Happened is a brilliant new approach to our game, and its author tells 100 stories you haven't heard before. And if John Thorne says that, then he's got a lot of new information without getting into the details. So,
wow,
it's well written too. It's not a lot of the stuff that is written by SABR members is oftentimes kind of dry or too analytical, and this reads well too.
Good to know. Dixie.
David Block's book is Baseball Before We Knew It.
Thank you, Dixie.
Right. Also, I think all three of them are excellent books.
Yeah, I'd like to extend an offer to everybody. Tuesday, April 6th at 7 p.m. I'll be doing a presentation for the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium here in Dubuque, which is Dubuque County Historical Society, on hometown heroes and hometown home runs, it's called. It's free. It's a virtual program, April 6th, 7 p.m. So if you go to Facebook and go to the National River Museum's website, or not website, but their Facebook page, and go to their events, you'll see April 6th. It is free to attend, so you are all invited. And I don't believe you have to sign up. I think they'll just start streaming it live at 7 p.m. on April 6th via Facebook.
John, are you on the Field of Dreams Facebook group?
For the chapter, I am.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And that I meant the SABR Field of Dreams chapter. I suggest posting something in that group about that program.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then also, there's also I think do we still have our email list, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that could be sent out to the chapter membership through that.
Yeah, we might. Well, I'll put a reminder on my calendar, and we'll do that maybe a week in advance. Is week good, John? Or
yeah, and I'll
You
send
don't
you
put
some
too
more
far in
information. about it, I'll send you via email. So if you want to broadcast
What-
about the list, you can.
John, what, I don't know what day of the week that is, but what time of day?
It's a Tuesday and it's 7 p.m.
Okay, okay,
Tuesday,
good.
7. Our time, I presume, Central Time.
Yeah, yes.
There are some of us in this group, at least one is on Eastern Time.
I have a question for Paul, off topic. What's the kitty's name?
This one is Jerry. He's our office paralegal since I work in a law office, but yeah.
Lindsay, where did you get your background? How do you go about getting one of those?
I I actually took this picture when I went to a Cardinals game, the panoramic setting on your iPhone, and then
Right.
I uploaded it to my computer, and I have the option. It depends on your model, but if you have a more recent computer model, whether it's PC or Mac, it allows you kind of to do a green screen setting in your Zoom where you can upload a background picture to serve as your background, and so that's what I was able to do. So it's whenever I do anything like SABR or baseball related, I usually throw this one on, but I have a whole bunch that I can change depending on the venue.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
John, your Mississippi picture is similar then?
Yes, yeah. This is actually the original Pikes Peak, just north of Dubuque, up by
Oh.
Prairie du Chien.
Cool.
We're disappointed. We thought you were sitting in your back porch.
Well, I have almost as beautiful of a view out my back porch, but not quite.
Okay.
Wonderful. Anybody have anything to add?
I don't know that Steve, do we have any other programs planned between now and obviously not in August, but
You
between
mean
now and
meetings
then?
like this?
Well, we can't do a ball game yet because we don't know when things will be open enough to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
My guess is that would almost have to be in June because we get too close to the August date if we do it later than that. And I'm guessing that it's pretty dicey as to whether any of the ballparks will be open enough to have a meeting at a ballpark this season.
Dicey enough where I haven't even considered it in my
No,
mind.
I think it's not. So I think it would almost have to be a Zoom meeting. I don't see the point of trying to gather in person if we also have to be distanced anyway.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I mean, where would we even do it?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
that's,
Well,
You know,
Steve,
these are pretty cool. I was hoping for a few more people, but hey, you guys were all interesting. I appreciate everybody showing up. We'll have another one maybe. What is this? This is the 21st of March. Let's shoot for 3 to 4 weeks, mid April. Is that okay with folks?
Steve, John and I will talk to Roman and maybe we can make him part of the program if we do one in mid-April.
That'd
And
be
he gives
great.
kind of an update on what's happening with the Field of Dreams. I think if we talk directly to him, you'll get the most recent and most accurate information. about
I'm
what's
sure
going-
he's happy to do it.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
sounds good.
John, hey, Pregler.
Yeah.
Did you know the woman, I can't remember her name, who was the owner, who passed away from cancer?
I did not know her. No, I did not, unfortunately.
I met her at the Chicago SABR convention. Beautiful lady.
Denise Stillman.
Beg your pardon?
Denise Stillman.
That's it. Denise Stillman. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Been very aware of her, and I've seen her, but I did not personally know her, unfortunately.
Did you meet? You didn't meet her then?
No, not in any formal type of way.
Okay. Okay.
Steve, that would have been 2015, right? The SABR
believe
meeting in
so.
2015.
The Chicago SABR meeting? Yes, I believe
The
so.
year before, so we all got to go to Wrigley Field the year before they won the championship.
Right, right. What does Paul say? I do. Oh, never
He
mind.
just said he had to leave. So did Lindsay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Along those lines, Roman, is he related in any way, business sense, to Denise?
I do not believe so. Roman's originally from Marshalltown, Iowa, I believe.
I see.
He's from Marshalltown, and he went to Loras College.
Yeah.
And he was on one of those Loras College teams that won that analytics conference competition that SABR puts on. They have a competition among colleges. And then he actually came down to when we did that symposium out at the Bob Feller Museum and the Legion Hall across the street. Roman came to that as a college student. He's a young guy. He's, what is he, maybe late 20s?
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
30 at the oldest.
At the 2015 SABR convention, when I met Denise, there was a young guy who was manning a table that they had. And that's how I met Denise. And what they were looking for were backers. And fortunately, there was nobody around. And so I had a chance to talk to Denise. They quickly caught on that I was not a backer. I would love to have been a backer, but it's not in my financial ability. But she was just the nicest person, and so was he. And I was wondering if that maybe was Roman.
Probably. Probably it was Roman.
Think so?
Good
Yeah,
man.
because he was quite young at that point, early mid-20s.
Yeah, that would fit in the time frame and how old he is now. Because I know he's been there for a few years now. So he was probably just starting his career out, maybe interning or something while he was going to Loras College.
If you get a chance, would you ask him? Do you converse with him?
I'll be speaking to him this week. So yeah, I'll bring it up. And like John said, hopefully we'll have him on for our next meeting and you'll be able to ask him yourself.
Wonderful. Yeah. See if he was at the 2015 SABR convention in Chicago. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We, they had that clown that drove his truck on the field and messed it up. And I think that was the winter. I don't remember. The years go by too quickly.
I want to say it was 2018.
Yeah, maybe. And they had a GoFundMe to fix things up, and I threw a few bucks in, and there were, I don't know, 50 to 80 of us maybe, and she got a ton of money, more than she was looking for, and got it all fixed up, and then she was going to have us all out there for a little victory thing. And it got postponed twice because of the weather, because it was late in the year. And on the last postponement announcement, where she said, we're going to do this, and hopefully maybe in January, never heard from her again. Well, come to find out, she got sick and died. So that's the story there. But I was always wondering whether, especially when John mentioned it last time, Roman, whether there's a connection. And it sounds like he was the one there. So I'm anxious to find out.
So.
Okay, folks, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening. I'll put an end to it.
Okay.
Dixie, thanks for coming aboard.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.